I'm the villainess in my favorite novel, trapped in a contract marriage to save my stepson. But when the divorce comes, my new family refuses to let me go. A girl said, You remember the last clause of our marriage contract, don't you? This marriage will be over in 1 year's time, and today is the last day of that period. So, just as our contract states, let's get divorced, Duke Decius. Duke Carrion Decius picked up and handed over the contract paper and asked, You want me to sign these divorce papers? She smiled and replied, I already have, so all we need is your signature, Your Grace. At that moment she thought, It's been exactly a year since I married Carrion. Today, I'm going to get a divorce, so that I don't die. We've made so many memories, but my survival is more important. Today is the first day of the rest of my life. After a while, she said, I finally got used to this place, so it feels like home now. It's a shame that I have to leave. Hearing this, Duke Carrion crumpled the paper angrily. She asked, Your Grace, why are you ripping those papers? Duke Carrion tore the paper angrily and replied, I will never write nor sign such papers. Hearing this, she think, What the hell is he saying? Then she stood up and asked, Why won't you grant me a divorce? Duke Carrion replied, I shall not. You will never be able to leave me, for I have come to harbor feelings for you. Hearing this, she shouted loudly, Excuse me? Duke Carrion said calmly, So I do hope you give up on divorcing me. At that moment, she began to think, Has he lost his mind? What's with the sudden confession? Then she says, But that's a breach of contract, Your Grace. We agreed that if one of us breaches the contract, Duke speaks, there would be a hefty fee to pay. Yes, I can pay you that fee right away. Would you like one of the mansions I own to start with? Hearing this, she shocked and said, Excuse me? Duke speaks, Once I pay you the compensation fee, our marriage contract is nullified, so never bring up divorce again, all right? You just said that this manor feels like home now, didn't you? You'll be able to stay here, forever. She think again. Forever? Yeah, right. At that moment, the door suddenly opened, and a child ran up to the girl, hugged her, and said, Mother, she says, Edwin? Edwin's eyes were filled with tears as he spoke. Please, Mother, please don't get a divorce. If you do, I'm leaving with you. She speaks. What do you mean? You're the successor of House Decius. You have to stay here, Edwin says. No, I don't want to stay here without you. Do you not want to take me with you, because I'm not your real son? She said. What? Don't say that, Edwin, Edwin added. Then please don't go, Mother, please. You won't leave me behind, will you? Seeing this, Duke laughed. She shouted loudly. Why are you laughing? Duke stepped forward and said, Ione, even Edwin is against this. Must you really leave the two of us behind? Then Ione think, why is this happening? Don't tell me. This is because I didn't act like the villainess in the novel? I didn't expect Carrion and Edwin to both be against this. The day I decided to get a divorce in order to avoid ending up dead, the men of House Decius started getting in my way. Ione Waysdon, a character who features in the romance fantasy novel titled, Please Take Care of the Young Master. She is selfish, greedy, and a typical villainess who enjoys tormenting people. The novel begins with Carrion Decius, the male lead, marrying Ione, the villainess, and the reason the two of them got married. Some noble ladies were sitting together and talking among themselves. It was all because of his nephew. In his will, the late Duke Schumann Decius asked Lord Carrion to adopt his child, who had been sent to an orphanage, but according to imperial law, a man must be married in order to adopt a child. But Lord Carrion was himself an illegitimate son, born to a lowly maid, so no noblewoman was willing to marry him. He wouldn't have been able to join House Decius in the first place had he not volunteered to go to war in the former duke's stead. He may be a war hero, but what self-respecting noblewoman would want to marry someone like that? It really goes to show just how desperate House Waysdon must have been, considering how proud they are. But then again, I suppose their family was ruined, so they didn't have much of a choice. Oh yes, I heard. Bacchus, the patriarch, passed away and left them with his enormous gambling debt, didn't he? House Waysdon, ruined by gambling debts, had no choice but to sell their daughter. I don't know if Ione Waysdon is capable of being a good wife. I just hope that awful woman doesn't torment the poor child. It was really just a marriage of convenience. But when Carrion refused to acknowledge her properly, Ione took all her anger out on Edwin, by tormenting him in secret, abusing him for her own entertainment. That's when Sarah Galicia, the female lead of the novel, makes her entrance. She became Edwin's tutor and gained favor with Carrion and her student. before she witnesses Ione's abuse and tries to expose the villainess. But realizing that Sarah had found out, Ione then attempted to poison her. But her plan fails, and all of her villainy is exposed, and Ione is put in jail, where she meets her death. That is the fate of Ione Waysdon, the villainess. And Ione smiled and said, "Pardon me, mother, what if I didn't marry Duke Decius?" Then she thought, "It's also the fate that I, having been reincarnated as Ione Waysdon, will have to face." Her mother shouted loudly, "What are you saying? You don't want to get married? The Duke has already paid off all our debt. You can't change your mind now." Then Ione says, "I'll come up with the money somehow." "So please," her mother speaks, "how in the world would you be able to come up with that much money within a month? Don't you remember? Those unable to pay their debts must do hard labor." "I have no intention of becoming a slave," Ione said. "But," her mother turned and says, "Enough. He said he would arrive in the afternoon. But that's barely enough time for you to get ready. Just how much have you had to drink? Pathetic. Why did you have to be born as my daughter and make my life so difficult?" "Oh, never mind. It's nothing. I shouldn't speak to the future Duchess like that." Her mother forcefully slammed the door and said, "In any case, hurry up and get ready." Ione was silently listening to everything, then she began to think. "I guess she's pretending to be nice to me because she sold me off. If I wanted to pay off that debt with hard labor, getting paid less than minimum wage, I'd have to at least win the lottery, huh? But this wouldn't change anything compared to my past life. I was abandoned as a baby, grew up lonely, and faced a lot of hardship. When I finally left the orphanage, I told myself, you'll always be alone in life, so money is your best friend. With that motto in mind, I spent my 20s working tirelessly to earn money, until I was finally able to make a down payment on a small apartment for myself. I finally have my own home. But on the happiest day of my life, I was hit by a car, and when I came to, I had become Ione Waysdon. I am glad that Ione's memories all came flooding back, but the fact that I'll have to bust my butt for the rest of my life remains unchanged. I don't want to live like a slave either. That means this marriage is inevitable, but I don't want to meet the same end that Ione did in the novel. What can I do to avoid dying like that? I need to think, though she also gets blamed for things she didn't actually do. The original Ione ended up dying alone in a dungeon cell, as a consequence of her evil actions. I should be fine as long as I don't end up in prison. What exactly did she do to land herself in jail? After a while, she shouted loudly, "She abused Edwin." Wait, but that means, my chances of dying will decrease if I don't act like a villainess, right? If I treat Edwin well, and divorce the Duke so I can be gone by the time the female lead arrives, wouldn't that mean I won't die like the real Ione did? Then she clenched her fist and said, "Okay, I'll just be a good person instead of the villainous Ione Waysdon used to be. I'll become a loving duchess who raises her stepson as if he were her own." Then she think again. "But wait, I feel like I'm forgetting something I'm supposed to be doing." In the Decius manner, a servant came and said, "You will be signing the contract with House Waysdon today, Your Grace. You must get ready to leave." Duke said, "All right." Meanwhile, Ione began to think, "I feel like I had something important to do today." Then her gaze falls on the marriage contract papers and she sighed. "Oh, right." At that moment, she think again. "I remember now, coming here to finalize our marriage contract." Then she speaks. "I've been so distracted by all of Ione's memories flooding into my head at once. This is the worst. Why do I need to face the man who causes my death as soon as I wake up in this world?" She picks up the papers and said, "I need to take a look at these conditions first." Then she read it. Marriage Conditions Section 1. Ione Waysdon will not exercise her status and power as the Duchess. Section 2. Ione Waysdon will not get involved in any family matters of House Decius. Section 3. He just wants me to sit around and do nothing like a doll. Ione says. Ione must have been furious, given how prideful she is. Then she think again. But then again, if you look at it another way, this means I can do absolutely nothing and no one will care. At that moment she shouted, "At least that's something to look forward to." Then she read it again. On the top that, "Please think about what conditions you may want to add to this contract, Lady Ione. I will allow whatever is within my power to do." Then she sets the papers down and thinks, "I can add my own condition, which of course, will be divorce. Once Sarah arrives, they'll be busy falling for each other, and I'm not going to stay and get in the way of that at the risk of my own life. I'll just divorce him before that happens. That afternoon, Duke said, I do not have much time, so let's get straight to the point. Lady Ione? Ione smiled and says, Oh, right. I apologize, Your Grace. Then she saw him and began to think. Black hair and purple eyes. He really is the carrion I read about in the novel. But I never expected him to be this handsome. Seeing him in person is a totally different experience. After a while, Duke speaks. Have you finished reviewing the marriage contract I drew up for us? Ione said. Pardon? Oh, yes. Then she think. He gets straight to the point without any small talk. I remember reading about his tone, but to think that he would sound so cold. At that moment, Ione says, I've read it all, and I agree to your conditions, Your Grace. Hearing this, Duke nodded and said, Thank you, Lady Ione. She think, No, thank you. I don't have to take on any of the duties expected of a duchess. How nice is that? I'm just going to eat, sleep, and veg out all day, every day. In exchange, I also have a condition. Duke asked. What is it? Ione replied. Please divorce me, Duke said. Divorce? She says. Yes. Then she slid the paper across the table. The Duke looked at the papers and added, This marriage will conclude in 1 year's time. She speaks. We have an image to uphold, so I thought a year would be long enough. Duke says. Divorce, you say. Then she speaks. Once we get divorced, I will leave House Decius right away. It'll be as if I was never there. If you like, you can tell everyone that I am to blame for the divorce. You can even say that I had an affair, or that I wasted too much of your money on luxury goods, so that you were forced to chase me away. Hearing all this, Duke said, All right, I accept. Let us get a divorce in 1 year's time, then. Hearing this, she's shocked and says, Pardon? Really? Then she think, I didn't think he'd agree so easily. He says, I believe I would benefit from this condition as well. She replied, Thank you, Your Grace. Then he asked, Will that be all, Lady Ione? She smiled and replied, Yes. Then he said, Then let's sign the contract. They both signed the contract. At that moment, she began to think, I did it. Everything is going according to plan. I'll be free from my tragic fate in no time. Then she said, I look forward to working with you, Your Grace. He was staring at her hand. She think, Oh no, I screwed up. I was so excited that I got ahead of myself. When she moved his hand a little down, so Duke shook hands with her. Then he says, Now then, I hope we get along, Lady Ione. I shall send a carriage to convey you to my manor 1 week from today. We shall proceed with the wedding once you arrive. Oh, I do have one question for you, she said. Yes? He asked. May I ask why you want to get a divorce? She asked. Why? He replied. It may only be a title and name, but I did not think you would want to give up on being a duchess. I am a bit surprised, she said. I see. Then she think, he's right. The real Ione would want to be a duchess, even if just in name. She was ready to poison the female lead just to keep her title, after all. But I don't want anything to do with such a dangerous position. After a while she said, Because if I stay married to you, I could die. Then she think again. I can't just tell him that. I'll just come up with an excuse. Then she says, I long for freedom. He asked. Freedom? She speaks. You are well aware of my family's situation. It's been quite difficult. I just wish to live a life free of such worries. He said, I see, I understand. When the Duke came out of there, his servant asked him as they were walking, Did something happen in there, Your Grace? Was there a problem with the contract? Duke replied, No, there wasn't. Then he asked, Then why do you have that expression on your face? Duke stepped forward and asked, My expression? What does it look like? He replied, Well, it's as if you are in awe or a bit dazed. Your reaction is very different this time compared to when you last met Lady Ione. Then Duke said, Franz, do women often completely their personalities overnight? Franz speaks, I don't know. I don't think I've ever heard of anything like that. Oh, was Lady Ione different today in some way? Duke said, She was an entirely different person. Before, she was an egotistical, arrogant woman, but today, Franz asked, What do you mean? How exactly was she different, Your Grace? Duke replied, Never mind. Let's go. Hearing this, Franz shocked and said, Pardon? You can't leave me hanging like that. Please, tell me what you were about to say, Your Grace. Please. Meanwhile, Ione reclined on the sofa, exhaling deeply, and spoke. I was so nervous, I thought I might faint. Then she raised the marriage contract and said, Why does this make me feel so conflicted? I hope I can do this. And I hope nothing bad happens. But then, a few minutes earlier, Ione speaks. Stop that, Liliana Cromwell. I didn't think that only a day later. I'd be insulted so blatantly, Liliana said. You don't look very happy to see your friends, Ione. Liliana replied. Oh my, don't say that. We're friends, aren't we? That's why we're here to congratulate you on your upcoming marriage. Then Ione began to think. She had Ione were friends who went everywhere together. But really, they were rivals who were always trying to outperform each other. Next to her is Serene Fidel. She switched to Liliana's side as soon as House Wayston was ruined. Then Liliana asked, Aren't you going to serve your friends tea? Oh, right, I'm sorry. I forgot that you can't even afford a maid anymore. Hearing this, Ione think again. There she goes. She just came here to laugh at Ione. This is why I didn't want to meet with her, but, then she asked, Mother, why would you let Liliana in? Her mother replied, She's the daughter of Count Cromwell. Who knows, she might be of help in the future. Try to make up with her, all right? Then she shouted loudly. Ah. She gave you that, didn't she? Her mother said. Oh dear. I kept refusing, but she insisted that I take it. Ione think again. She disliked Liliana for looking down on our family. But, ugh, she really is no help. After a while she asked, So, you came here to congratulate me? All right then, go ahead, Liliana said. What? Ione speaks. You came here to congratulate me, right? Then do it, Liliana said. Right. Congratulations, Ione. You get to marry famous Duke Carrion Decius. Then Serene says, I'd like to congratulate you too, Ione said. Thank you, Liliana and Serene. Then Liliana began to think. What? Why is she so calm today? At that moment, Ione stood up and said, That's it, right? Then please be on your way. She turned. Liliana asked, Ione, you did get an official marriage proposal from Duke Decius, didn't you? Hearing this, Ione asked. What? Serene said. Liliana, stop. Liliana speaks. Since you don't have a ring, I thought maybe he never actually proposed to you. I know your mother practically pushed you into this. But isn't this going too far? Oh, I suppose he's not used to noble customs because he's an illegitimate child, Serene said. Stop that, Liliana Cromwell, Liliana says. Am I wrong? His poor fiancée's family was ruined, so she has to live in a manor without any servants. But he hasn't lifted a finger to help you. I'm worried this might be a sham marriage, Ione. What did the Duke look like? I heard that his face is horribly scarred from the battlefield. Was he as gruesome looking as they say? Isn't that why he's never appeared at any social events? Hearing this, she clenched her fist and think, You little snake. Suddenly, a voice was heard. Lady Ione. She turned around and saw that it was Duke Carrion. She said, Your Grace? Then she think, Why are you here, Carrion? After a while she asked, What brings you here, Your Grace? I didn't hear you arrive. Duke Carrion replied. The door was open. Then she think, Don't tell me he heard everything. Then Duke asked, May I greet your friends? She replied, Sure. Then Duke said, Hello, I am Duke Carrion Decius. Serene bowed and says, Hello, Your Grace. My name is Serene Fidel. Then Serene speaks. Liliana? You should greet his grace. At that moment, Ione began to think, Is she going to ignore him just because he's an illegitimate child or something? Liliana stepped forward and said, Hello, Your Grace. I am Liliana Cromwell, daughter of Count Cromwell. Ione saw her and began to think again. Wait, why are her cheeks all red? Then Duke speaks. I heard that you came to congratulate us on our engagement. She was trembling with fear and said, Ione looked at her and thought, No wonder she's afraid. Carrion might be looked down upon by the nobles, but he is still a duke. He's the patriarch of House Decius. In the Ursinian Empire, it's second only to the imperial family. The war hero who dealt with the barbarians. She was just caught making fun of such a great man. After a while Duke asked, If you don't mind, would you allow me to interrupt your time together? Liliana replied, Pardon? Suddenly, the Duke went down on one knee. Then Ione asked, Your Grace? Why are you getting down on one knee? At that moment, the Duke took out a ring and said, Lady Ione Wayston, please marry me. Seeing this, she shocked and asked, What? Really? Now, seeing this, Liliana think, There's no mistaking it. That's a blue diamond. Colored diamonds are incredibly rare in the Empire. Why would he use such a precious stone? On someone as insignificant as Ione? Then Liliana clenched her fist angrily. Ione began to think as she looked at the ring. Whoa, this is too much. I can't let him give me such an expensive ring when he's already paid off our debt. Then she said, I don't know if I deserve a ring like this. Then, suddenly, the Duke took her hand and slid the ring onto her finger. She saw him and began to think, Your Grace, you're supposed to wait for me to say yes first. In the novel, Ione doesn't get a proposal. The blue diamond ring is simply delivered by a servant, and she often complained about it afterward. So why do I get a proposal and the ring placed on my finger by the Duke himself? Get a grip! I can't let this get to me. This man is taken. After a while, Ione said, Now please, go ahead and congratulate us, ladies. Then Liliana says, Congratulations, Ione, I hope you both find happiness together. Ione speaks, Thank you. Then Liliana speaks, Let's go, Serene. I forgot I had other plans today as well. Suddenly, her mother came and shouted loudly, Ione! There are servants lined up outside. What is going on? Then, when she saw the Duke, she asked him, Oh my, Your Grace! Was this your doing? Duke bowed and replied, Yes, Lady Wayston, they are under my employ, so please order them around Wayston Manor as you wish. Her mother's eyes were full of tears, and she said, How thoughtful of you, Your Grace. Thank you so much. The Duke presented a handkerchief and said, I should have done this much sooner. I apologize. Seeing this, Serene says, He's so sweet to his mother-in-law too. His Grace isn't anything like the rumors. Liliana shouted, So what? This is nothing, forget it. Let's get out of here. Then Ione began to think, She's so arrogant. Then everyone moved away from there. She speaks, Thank you for sending us servants, Your Grace. I would have prepared something if I had known you were going to visit. I apologize, Duke added, There's no need, and if you ever need help in the future, please let me know right away. She replied, No! You already settled our debt for us. I could possibly, he said, That isn't what I meant. Then she began to think, Why is he angry? Did I say something wrong? He said, You will become Duchess Decius soon, Lady Ione. Letting someone look down on you is like letting them look down on our whole family. That's why I need you to tell me whenever you need help, like today. She think again. No wonder he was helping me. It makes sense now that he proposed in front of an audience. He had to uphold House Decius's good name. Oh geez, what was I expecting? This is so embarrassing. Please do not allow such things to hurt you. Then she says, Pardon? He speaks. If anyone is ever rude to you again, I will deal with them for you. I shall get going now. Then she lost in thought. After that, Carrion quickly left the reception room. Even after he was gone, his solemn gaze and tone lingered in my mind for a while. The next day, a lady said, We have arrived, my lady, she asked. So this is the largest bookstore in the capital? Then she lost in thought. Carrion did not allow Ione to leave the manor, fearing that she would get herself into trouble. So I need to get all the necessary things ahead of time. The bookstore is where I'll get one of the most important things I'll need. My first gift to Edwin, maid said. I will wait for you outside, my lady, she says. All right. I won't take long. Then she began to think. I chose to get a storybook as Edwin's first gift. The reason was simple, because the female lead of the novel managed to befriend Edwin that way. I feel a bit guilty, but I need to ensure my own survival first. I wonder what kind of book he'd like. Someone was watching her from behind. She reached her hand out toward a book. The female lead won't have to give any gifts for the men of House Decius to love her. I'll take a look at one up there, but I won't be able to befriend Edwin that easily. Then a man stepped forward. It's a little higher up than I thought. And then he picked up the book. She saw him and said, Thank you. The man gave a slight smile. She said, Excuse me, may I have that book now? He was looking at her silently. Then she think, What's he doing? He asked. Why should I give it to you? She asked. Weren't you helping me reach it? He replied. I never intended to get it for you, she said. Pardon me. Then she reached toward the bookshelf and began to think. Oh geez, how embarrassing. I should hurry up and choose a book, so I can leave. As soon as she reached her hand out toward a book, the man picked it up again. At that moment she asked, What are you doing? Stay calm, he replied. Can't you tell? I'm choosing books to buy. She shouted loudly. I don't know what you're playing at. But it's very unpleasant, he asked. Unpleasant, you say? Why don't you just grab the books first then? Then she lost in thought. Clear scars on his right hand, blonde hair and red eyes. Don't tell me this is Lenin Decius. In the novel, Lenin Decius is part of House Decius's branch family. He and Carrion are cousins, and Linan constantly tormented Carrion when they were young. The scars on the back of his right hand came from dueling Carrion. he think, I lost to Carrion? How dare he beat me? Not only did the loss scar his ego, but it also left him with a scar that would stay with him for life. He's also a villain who wants Carrion and Edwin gone, so he can take over. As patriarch of House Decius, he must be acting like this, because he knows I'm Ione Waysdon. He might have even followed me into the bookstore. In the novel, Lenon even set a spy on Sarah, the female lead, to see if she'd be useful to Carrion, but he never spied on Ione thought. But, why not? Oh, because he concluded that Ione wasn't worth spying on. Ione was ill-tempered, and not very smart either. Lennon never considered her an obstacle. In fact, he thought the marriage between Ione and Carrion would benefit him. So he even abandoned his plans to assassinate her. That means, if I show him a different side of Ione than in the novel, I might get assassinated. Help me, there's only one way to get out of this predicament. After a while, she asked, Excuse me, do you like me or something? Lennon replied, Pardon? She smiled and speaks. What a bother! Men like you always flock to me, wherever I go. It's so tedious. I suppose I can't blame you. I'm sorry, but I can't accept your feelings. I'm already engaged, you see? Then she think, I'll act as shallow and vapid as possible, so he doesn't see me as worth his time. Lennon asked, What in the world are you talking about? What is wrong with you? She replied, laughing. You've no choice. I already have someone. So you have to give up on me. I'll pray you find a beautiful woman of your own. Not that she'll be anywhere near as stunning as me. Saying this, she began looking for book again and began to think. I hope that made me look foolish enough. This isn't making things worse, is it? You never know. I'll just say one more thing. Then she speaks. By the way, can you read this? It's not that I don't know how to read, but a few of these words are a little tricky, Lennon said. Ha, you're looking at a storybook for children. Looks like he got himself a bride, suited to his lowly background. Hearing this, she think, What was that, you bastard? I can hear you. Then she asked, Hello? Tell me what this world is. Lennon turned and replied, You're on your own, lady. How degrading. She think again. I was just acting, but now I feel a little insulted. He shut the door and walked away. She think again. He's finally gone. Then she chose books and said, Now then, excuse me, I'd like to buy these books, please. Lennon speaks. I was able to meet her quite quickly, thanks to you keeping an eye on her. Good work, Nelson. What did you think of the wench? Nelson said. The rumors about her all seem to be accurate. Lennon says, The only good thing about her are her looks. She had a strange personality, and was incredibly ignorant. Nelson added, Yes, I got the same impression, although, come to think of it, she did seem to exaggerate a lot. Lennon said, Come to think of it, she did seem to be exaggerating a lot. Nelson replied, Shall I have a spy keep an eye on Ione Waysdon? Lennon replied, No. I'm just imagining things. Someone as uneducated as her couldn't possibly be clever enough. She won't help Carrion in any way. In fact, she'll only hinder him. Let's ignore that foolish woman and continue our investigation. Nelson says, Understood, my lord. After a while, she was ready to leave. Then her mother, crying, said, Be well, Ione, and thank you. Then Ione saw her and think, She was so harsh all this time. But I guess even a mother like her is sad to see her daughter go. Her mother says, Your brother Bacchus should be able to rest in peace now. I can die happy now, Ione said. Bacchus? Her mother added, Your brother had such a hard time with all that debt before he passed away. Now that the debt has been settled, I wish Bacchus could come back to life and lead House Waysdon again. Hearing this, Ione think, What is she saying? Bacchus was the one who caused all that debt. Even the tears she's showing while parting with her daughter aren't meant for her daughter at all. I can't believe she's crying over her son, who ran away and left his family in debt. Now that selling off her daughter has improved her life better. Then she shouted loudly, What did Bacchus ever do for us? He left us drowning in gambling debt, and ran away like a coward. The reason this happened to our family is because of that bastard. Her mother slapped her. Then Ione thought, Did I just get slapped in the face? Then her mother shouted loudly, You are terrible! How could you say something so cruel about your own brother? Ione said, I'm being cruel? It's his fault that I'm being sold off to someone as a bride. Don't I have the right to speak my mind? Her mother shouted loudly, Being sold off? What are you saying? Isn't becoming a duchess a good thing for you? Everything Bacchus did was for the good of our family. Then Ione thought, back is this, back is that. She won't stop talking about him. At that moment, she turned and said, "Fine, I'm leaving now. Have a good life, mother," her mother says. Ione. Then Ione began to think. All she thinks about is her son. Even on the day her daughter is leaving. I guess this is for the best. I don't have to feel bad for her. Then she speaks. "You don't have to come to the wedding," her mother shouted loudly. "Good, I'm glad to hear it. I refuse to go to the wedding of such an ungrateful daughter. You hear me? I'm not going." She sat in the carriage and slammed the door shut. Her mother shouted loudly. "Wait! Ione, are you just going to leave like that?" she said. "Please depart," coachman replied. "Yes, my lady." Her eyes were full of tears, then she began to think. "I can't believe the first family I ever had would be so terrible. If that's what family is like, I'd rather not have any. Have we arrived?" Then when she looked out of the window, she would be surprised and think, "Whoa, it's huge! That's the Duke's manor? I'm sure a big place like this has lots of attendants." She got out of the carriage and stood there. She said, "Wait, where are all the servants? No one's here to greet me." Then she reached her hand out toward her bag and lost in thought. "Well then, I'll go look for Edwin first. I guess it's only natural that no one is here to welcome me." According to the novel, the day Ione arrives at the manor, everyone is busy looking for Edwin, who has disappeared. Meanwhile, Edwin was sitting in his room, studying. Felice Decius, the first patriarch. The second was Seraph Decius. And the third. Then he think, "I don't want to study anymore." At that moment, Edwin hears some servants talking among themselves. "I heard the Duchess is arriving tomorrow. I suppose young Master Edwin will be treated poorly from now on." Rumors say the young lady was infamous for her temper in the capital. She apparently drank herself into a stupor every day, because she didn't want to marry the Duke. Goodness, if someone like that had her own child, she'd be eager to kick out the young master. Hearing all this, Edwin began to think. The Duchess arriving tomorrow will treat me poorly? That sounds just like the evil stepmother that one of the older girls of at the orphanage read to me about. Stepmothers starve and torment children before kicking them out. That might happen to me as well if the Duchess is like that evil witch from the story. Oh, that's right. Her eyes filled with tears. I'll hide in a secret place, where the Duchess can't find me. After a while, Ione started looking for her. A maid shouted, "Young master, where are you, young master? Please come out now." Servant says, "No, let's try looking over there." The maid called out loudly, "Where are you, young master? Please come out now." Ione began to think, I should hide for now. If they find out I've arrived, maids will start tailing me. She squeezed the book in her hand, but that would get in the way of my first meeting with Edwin, so I can't let them notice. They're gone. Perfect. Now I just have to find Edwin before the sun sets. In the novel, the attendants don't find Edwin until late at night, but because of a sudden rain, shower that night he catches a cold, and his constitution weakens because of it. That's why I need to hurry and, this must be Edwin's secret greenhouse. This wall is way too high. Oh, there's a hole over there. I'm sure I can fit through. Slowly, just keep crawling. I'm stuck. I can't move. I made it out. That was tough. Then she speaks. I'll have to do something about this wall. My clothes are ruined. Suddenly, the bush rustled. Ione began to think. Someone's there. Could Edwin be hiding here? I'll have to move slowly so I don't scare him. Then she stepped forward and saw Edwin sitting there. Seeing him, she began to think again. Oh my goodness, he looks just like a baby angel. He rubbed his eye. Then he asked, "What happened? How did you get hurt? You look like you're in pain." She think, "Oh, I found him. This has to be Edwin." Then she said, "It's fine. Nothing happened. I'm all right." Edwin says, "But your clothes are all torn up. Are you sure? Should I call a physician?" Then, seeing him, she thought, purple eyes shining with sorrow, and a kind, thoughtful personality. This is Edwin, my favorite character in the novel. Even when he was abused by Ione and ignored by the attendants, he always worried about others because of his kind nature. He even apologized to the maid who had helped torment him when she showed him sympathy. He was so innocent and naive that I really wanted to become part of his family. Wait a minute. Edwin is my stepson now, right? The Edwin I had loved in the novel. My son? The boy I had longed to feed, tuck in at night, and read stories to? Then she said, "I'll be good to you, my son," Edwin asked. "By the way, how did you get in here?" Nobody knows about this place but me. She smiled and replied, Oh, I was just walking along, and ended up here. Then she think, he's so cute when he's confused. He speaks. I see. Are you a guest here to see the Duke? I'll guide you to the manor. Are you, perhaps, the Duchess? She smiled and said, That's right. I am Ione Waysdon, soon to be Duchess Decius. It's nice to meet you, Edwin. Hearing this, he shocked and said, The Duchess? At that moment, he turned and think, The witch? She says, Edwin? Then suddenly, he hugged her tightly and spoke. I'll be good, I promise. So please don't send me away? She asked. What do you mean? Why would I send you away? You're the successor to Duke Decius. Who would do that? Then he asked. You're not going to kick me out? She replied. Of course not. He asked again. And you won't be horrible to me? She replied. How could I be horrible to such a nice boy? Then she gave him the book and speaks. Here, I've even brought you a gift. A storybook? I'm not a child, you know, so I don't like storybooks. Hearing this, she think, how cute. I guess he likes my gift. What was he doing inside the greenhouse anyway? He was dozing outside just now. At that moment, her eyes fell on a book lying on the floor and began to think again. Ooh, a book. I wonder what it is. Then she went over to the book, picked it up, and began to read. First Patriarch Felice Decius, second Patriarch Seraph Decius. After reading it, she thought, this is the biography of House Decius's patriarchs. Edwin hated this book in the novel. Then she showed the book and said, I'd like to borrow this book. Edwin says, Pardon? But, she speaks, it's fine, if your tutors say anything. Just tell them the Duchess borrowed it from you. All right then. Shall we go now? She held out her hand, but Edwin didn't take it. Then she pulled her hand back and said, I guess I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm sorry. That was embarrassing. Let's hurry back. Edwin replied, No, thank you for the book. Hearing this, she think, he's so adorable. Then she says, I'd like to thank you too. Thank you for thanking me. Meanwhile, the Duke was looking for Edwin and called out to him. Edwin, where are you? At that moment, then he saw Edwin coming toward Ione. Then he asked, Why were you with Edwin? Ione shouted loudly. Hold on, I know what you're about to say. So please keep it to yourself for the moment. Hearing this, the Duke was stunned. Then she think, Wait, why is he looking at me like that? At that moment, the servants began talking among themselves. Is that the Duke's fiancée? Why does she look like that? I heard her family was ruined, but do they not even have the money for a new dress? Hearing this, she think, Oh yeah, I look terrible right now. Then Duke said, Everyone is dismissed. They all said, Yes, Your Grace. She think again. Is he embarrassed about his fiancée looking like a slob? Or is he being considerate toward me? Then Duke asked, Lady Ione, why do you look so disheveled? Did something happen? She smiled and replied, I was just looking at the flowers in the garden, and ended up a little dirty. Duke asked again, Were you rolling around in the dirt? How did you end up like this? She replied, Good question. I have no idea, Duke said. More importantly, Edwin, she says, I got lost looking around the garden as soon as I arrived. But thankfully Edwin found me and brought me back. Then she winked at Edwin. He asked, Edwin, is this true? Then she asked, Do you not believe me? At that moment, she showed the book to the Duke. Then she said, Edwin said that he fell asleep while studying this book in the annex library, and after he woke up, he found me on the way back. So stop interrogating him. He asked, Is that true? Edwin replied, Well, you see. Then she winked at Edwin again. Edwin says, Yes, Your Grace. Hearing this, she think, Good job. Then they clapped. Duke said, All right, go on inside, Edwin. She says, We did it, didn't we? Edwin reply, Yes. Duke says, I need a word with you, Lady Ione. Then she think, What does he have to say to me? He speaks, Lady Ione, you seem to get along well with Edwin already. She asked, Do you think so? He replied, He's very wary of strangers. But if he agreed to show you the way, you must have befriended him. Then she think, Even Carrion thinks so. That means the first step of my plan was a success. He says, How did you? Never mind. Please ignore that. She asked, Would you like to befriend Edwin too, Your Grace? He replied, Yes, I feel as though we have grown even further apart now than when we first met. Then she lost in thought. Even in the novel, they weren't exactly close. After adopting Edwin as his son, Carrion was always gruff and unfriendly toward him, because he didn't know how to treat children, and in order to train him as his successor, Carrion was always cold to Edwin, and overworked him. He treated him like a subordinate. Naturally, Edwin became afraid of Carrion, and was uncomfortable around him. In other words, Carrion got what he deserved. After a while he asked, "How did you befriend him so quickly, Lady Ione?" Hearing this, she think, "Don't look at me with those sad puppy dog eyes. Sarum will take care of this once she arrives anyway." "Oh, whatever." Then she smiled and replied, "You just have to be nice to him," he says. "Nice?" she asked. What if you gave him a gift?" he replied. "I tried that, but," she speaks. "What? Gifts should be enjoyed by the person receiving them. Here, take a look. Do you really think a child would like books like this?" Then she raised book, he said, "but Edwin said that he liked it when I gave it to him." She added, "That's just because he's too nice. Children at his age prefer storybooks." "I see. Then I shall give him a storybook as well." Suddenly, it started raining. She said, "Oh my, it's raining. Let's hurry inside, Your Grace." He speaks. "Wait, Lady Ione?" she asked. "Pardon? What did you just say?" he replied. "Never mind." Then he called out, "Keegan! Come out!" Keegan came forward, bowed, and said, "Yes?" "You called, Your Grace?" he says. "Take Lady Ione to her room." Keegan reply, "Yes, Your Grace." She began to think, "Huh! Why is he just leaving? What was he going to say? Arg, wait, what is it? Now I really want to know." "Don't do this to me," Keegan said. "Please follow me, my lady," she replied. "Pardon?" "Oh, yes." When they arrived in the room, Keegan said, "This is the room passed down from Duchess to Duchess." Seeing the room, she was shocked and thought, this is the room Ione had completely redecorated because she thought it looked tacky. "It's so nice." Keegan speaks. "I shall take my leave. The maids will be here soon, so please tell them if you need anything." She says, "All right." She sat on the bed and think, gosh. The bed is nice and soft too. So many things happened today. I'm so glad my first meeting with Edwin went well. The bed is so comfortable. No, I can't sleep yet. I still have something to do. I need to prepare for the second stage of my plan tomorrow. When she opened the door, the maids were standing in front of her. A maid asked, "My lady, do you need us to do anything for you?" Another speaks, "We were just arranging your things. We weren't doing anything bad." Hearing this, she think, "Oh, right. The maids here are scared of me because of the rumors." Then she said, "Just go back to what you were doing. If you find an envelope containing some documents while you're putting things away, hand it to me." Maids reply, "Yes, my lady." A maid said, "My lady, we've found the documents you were looking for." She opened the envelope and began to think, "Perfect. I was pretty nervous that the newspaper wouldn't have this. I hope the effort was worth it. This contains my marriage contract, and the weapon I need for the second stage of my plan. This should be enough for tomorrow's plan to go off without a hitch." The next day, the Duke was busy with paperwork in his office when suddenly there was a knock at the door. "Come in," Keegan said, "Your Grace." "Something has happened. Lady Ione is having a shouting match with Lord Edwin's tutor." Hearing this, Duke shocked and asked, "What do you mean? Why would she fight with him?" Keegan replied, "Well, I hear that she was infringing on his rights as a tutor." Duke asked, "Infringing on what? What is her reasoning?" Then he crumpled the paper. Keegan replied, "The maids told me that Lady Ione burst into the room where Lord Edwin was being taught, and suddenly ordered for the tutor to be thrown out." Duke asked, "Lady Ione would not have done so without a reason. Did she not explain her actions?" Keegan replied, "Yes, she would. You heard the rumors about her, Your Grace. Her temperament does not suit that of the noble house Decius. I apologize for being so forward, but you should really reconsider marrying her." And, hearing this, Duke shouted loudly, "Keegan, you are crossing a line. I chose to go through with this marriage." Then Keegan speaks, "I apologize, please forgive me, Your Grace." At that moment, Duke began to think, Keegan is extremely loyal to House Decius. This was just a mistake made with pure intentions, so I should let it go. Then Duke speaks, "Just be more careful from now on, Keegan." Keegan said, "Yes, Your Grace." Duke says, "Also, those rumors about Lady Ione are nothing but slander." "I'm sure of it." Keegan reply, "I will take that to heart, Your Grace." Duke speaks, "Lady Ione is a wise young woman. She would never be so rude." At that moment, Ione came in, slammed the door shut, and shouted loudly, "Your Grace, I have something to tell you." Then Jackin came and shouted loudly, "Wait, Your Grace. Please listen to what I have to say first." Lady Ione interrupted my lesson without warning and got in the way of my class. Ione speaks, Your Grace, this man is a terrible person. You must fire him at once, then Keegan said. She does seem rather rude. Then the Duke slammed the table hard and shouted, Enough! Tell me what happened, one at a time, Jackin said. May I go first, Your Grace? Duke says. Go ahead, Jackin added. I was in the middle of a lesson with Lord Edwin when Lady Ione burst in without warning and began to make a scene. Hearing this, Duke asked, Is that true, Lady Ione? Ione replied, Yes, it is. Then she added, But only because that man was about to strike Edwin. Then Duke asked, Is that true, Jackin? Jackin replied, As you know, Your Grace, I always use a pointing stick during my lessons. Lady Ione must have misunderstood and imagined that swinging it around meant I was going to strike the young master. Hearing this, Ione shouted loudly, Excuse me? A pointing stick? You were about to strike Edwin's frail little hands with that stick of yours. Jackin speaks. This is slander, Your Grace. You know I would never do such a thing. I gave up positions at other noble houses just to teach Lord Edwin. Then the Duke slammed the table hard and sighed. Keegan, he replied. Yes, Your Grace, Duke said. Bring Edwin here. At that moment, Ione showed an envelope and speaks. No! You don't need to call him here, because I can show you what kind of man this tutor is even without Edwin. A few hours earlier, Edwin Decius's testimony, which he was never able to give, Jackin said. You didn't bring your book, Lord Edwin, Edwin says. The Duchess borrowed it from me. Then Jackin asked, So now you're lying to me? Edwin replied, Pardon? Then Jackin shouted loudly, Why would she want to borrow your book? I know that you just lost it somewhere on purpose because you didn't want to study. Edwin got scared and said, No! I'm not lying! I swear, Jackin speaks. I know that you just lost it somewhere on purpose because you didn't want to study. Then prove that you didn't just lose it somewhere because you didn't want to study. Edwin asked. How do I do that? Jackin replied. If you didn't lose the book on purpose, then you must have studied hard. I will ask you a question. Let's see if you can answer. Then Jackin raised the stick and said, Then I'll believe what you said. But if you can't, it'll be 10 strikes to your palms. Then he think, He's nothing but a dirty, illegitimate child. How dare he try to fool me with an obvious lie? I'll teach him a lesson. If it hadn't been for that incident, I wouldn't even have to be here to deal with you. Then he asked, Here's my question, Lord Edwin. What were the achievements of the 4th patriarch of House Decius? Edwin replied, His achievements? But my homework was just to memorize their names. Jackin speaks. I kept telling you to read the whole book, didn't I? And how dare you raise your voice at your teacher? Hold out your hands. Edwin put his hand forward and replied, Yes, sir. Then he picked up the stick and shouted loudly, You are pathetic! All the other young nobles your age already know their house's history and traditions by heart. How much longer are you going to stay so ignorant? As soon as he tried to strike, he grabbed the stick. He shouted, Excuse me? Ione said, You're not supposed to hit children. How dare you try to hit my son? This is unforgivable. Then, in anger, she broke the stick. He asked, Your son, you say? Then you must be the Duke's fiancé. Ione replied, That's right. I'm Ione Waisd and the future Duchess. He added, In any case, this is an infringement upon my rights as a tutor. Why would you make such a fuss when even the Duke does not involve himself in Lord Edwin's education? Ione asked. Infringement? Make a fuss? How could you say that about a mother trying to protect her son? He shouted loudly. Ha! You are not even the Duchess yet, she speaks. So you want me to stand by while you abuse a child? Besides, the Duke couldn't have ordered you to punish Edwin in this way. Edwin steps in and said, Excuse me, he says. It is my responsibility to teach the young master. I'm all right. Please don't fight because of me, she added. I will be telling the Duke about what happened here today, and I'll tell him that I can't let a child abuser like you teach Edwin. Then she hugged him. At that moment, she turned and speaks. I'm going to tell the Duke everything that happened here today, and I'll tell him that I can't let a child abuser like you teach Edwin. Hearing this, he shouted loudly, Excuse me? Then I'll go as well. I'll also tell His Grace all about how rude you've been. At that moment, Edwin began to think, Lady Ione's going to be in trouble because of me. I hope she's all right. At that moment, Ione showed an envelope and speaks. No. You don't need to call him here, because I can show you what kind of man this tutor is, even without Edwin. Duke speaks. Isn't it important to hear what the person in question has to say so we can find out the truth? Then she think, he's right, but that won't work here. Edwin will most likely say that nothing happened because he doesn't want to burden you. Then Ione opened the envelope, took out a paper, and asked, Jackin, do you know what I am holding here? The noblewoman who fell in love with a tutor, Jackin replied. This tabloid is formed 2 months ago. Huh, she's trying to frame me, Your Grace, Duke said. Keep your mouth shut, Jackin. What does this have to do with him, Lady Ione? Please take a look. It will show you what kind of person this man really is. Then Duke read it. The noblewoman who fell in love with a tutor. There's a noblewoman who fell for her son's tutor while her husband was away at war, defending the empire. And so, the noblewoman and tutor grew so passionate that their affair did not stop even on the day her husband returned. The noblewoman's husband has a fiery temper, so I hope he never finds out about their love. At that moment Duke speaks. Jackin, you were a tutor for House Edwin before coming here and were highly recommended by the Marchioness, if I recall correctly, he said. Your Grace, please forgive me, Duke says. Answer my question. He speaks. Yes, Your Grace. Then Duke added, and Marquis Edwin happens to be guarding the Empire's borders. In the novel, a month before Sarah arrives at the manor, Marquis Edwin barges in and puts an end to the affair. It was like something out of a soap opera. Then Duke added, if the tabloids wrote about this, most people would already know, which is why the Marchioness sent you here before the Marquis could find out about you too, he says. Your Grace, please forgive me. This is all my fault. Then the Duke angrily crumpled the paper and said, you and the Marchioness must have thought me such a fool. Be grateful that I am not killing you on the spot. At that moment Duke speaks. Keegan, have the servants removed this man from the manor at once? Keegan said. Yes, Your Grace. Jackin shouted. Your Grace. Wait, please. Listen to what I have to say. Please. Then I only think. Another crisis averted, Duke said. Maybe I should have just killed him. She began to think. Wait a minute. Killed him. Come to think of it, Jackin never made another appearance in the novel after he was taken away by the Marquis, which means the Marquis probably executed him. Doesn't that mean I saved Jackin's life? Darn it. I can't believe I helped that jerk. I'll have to be more careful from now on. If I make another decision that goes against the novel, it could affect a person's entire future. After a while Duke asked, Lady Ione, how did you know Jackin was that kind of person? Hearing this, she think, he's not just going to let me gloss this over, huh? Then she replied, from the tabloids, of course. I love reading them, so I happened to find that article. I don't actually have any more, please don't ask. Shall I show them to you? Duke said. No, that's all right. I can't believe I left Edwin's education to such a vulgar man. I can't trust anyone now. Who can I hire to teach Edwin? She asked. Your Grace. What if you left his education up to me? Duke said. You? Teach Edwin? She says. Yes. Duke added. I apologize, but I must refuse. She smiled and said, Pardon? But why? Duke speaks. I am very grateful to you for finding out about this. But Edwin's education is another matter entirely, she said. Please tell me why I'm not suitable, Your Grace. Duke added. I'm well aware that it's difficult to find anyone to teach Edwin because of his background, she added. Even if you did find someone, those nobles are all so stuck up that they just end up hurting him again. Then Duke said, in that case, I will leave it to a trusted subordinate, just until you find someone else. I'll say it again, Lady Ione, you can't. She asked. Why do you keep saying no? Please tell me the reason, Duke replied. It's because I will die soon. Carrion Decius's argument. Carrion Decius spent 16 years of his life as an illegitimate child of House Decius. Because he was the son of the Duke and a maid, he was neglected while growing up. Not even allowed to attend the academy. It was only after he was forced to go to war in his brother Shaman's stead that Carrion was finally accepted as part of House Decius. And because of what he went through, he found himself worrying that those dear to him might have to endure the same hardships if he were to die. Then he speaks. It's because I might die at any moment. If the Emperor wills it, I must return to the battlefield at any time. Even if I were to die at war, my wish is that no one will be able to remove Edwin from his position as my successor. If Edwin were to become the most accomplished student at the academy, he would receive the Emperor's approval, which would mean even House Decius's elders wouldn't be able to defy Edwin. In other words, I must ensure he receives the best possible education. The elders don't pose a risk to just Edwin. If you were to insist on things as the Duchess, You might get swept up not only by their influence, but by outside forces as well. I want to protect you from that danger. I'm making this decision to protect everyone. Hearing all this, she said, I understand, but does Edwin actually see you as family right now, Your Grace? I just want to make sure he knows this is his home, and that we are his family. Memorizing the names of previous patriarchs won't help him feel at home, nor will it make him think of you as his father. At that moment, she showed a book and added, Yes, he may understand in time, but have you ever considered how much Edwin will suffer during that time? Being harsh on him isn't the only option. Then the Duke took the book from Ione and said, I won't force Edwin to study from that book anymore. Hearing this, she smiled and says, Really? Then he added, And I hope you'll consider letting me tutor Edwin. She says, Thank you, Your Grace. He speaks, I haven't given you permission yet. I'm going to think about it. She says, That's the same thing. I'll get going now, Your Grace. He asked, Hold on, where are you off to? She replied, To tell Edwin the good news, of course. He said, Hold on, Lady Ione. I haven't made up my mind yet, so don't tell Edwin. The Duke saw her hand, then grabbed it, and squeezed it, and he felt pain. Then he asked, Are you all right, my lady? She replied, Yes. I'm fine. He asked, What happened to your hand? She replied, I had to stop Jackin from hitting Edwin with his stick, so, haha, it just needs some salve. I'm completely fine, so don't worry about me. I'll be going now, so please return to your work, Your Grace. He said, Hold on. Then he called out, Keegan! Call for the physician. Keegan said, Yes, Your Grace. Ione saw Edwin, so she asked, What are you doing there, Edwin? They went into the room. Edwin said, You're back. Then she asked, Were you waiting for me? How long have you been standing here? Would you like to come in? Edwin replied, I wanted to take care of the wound on your hand. I brought some salve too. As he speaks, his eyes were full of tears. My hands are used to getting hit like that from my time at the orphanage. But you're a noblewoman, so you mustn't get hurt. She says, Hearing you say that makes me sad. Edwin said, It makes you sad? She speaks, Of course. I would have been so upset if he had hit your hands instead. Do you want me to be upset? Edwin replied, No. Then she wiped away his tears and said, So don't cry or say things like that anymore, all right? Edwin smiled and says, Yes, Your Grace. The Duke was watching everything from behind the door. Then Edwin added, By the way, you were amazing when you stopped that stick with your bare hand. She said, laughing. It was nothing. Keegan asked, Shall I announce your arrival? Duke replied, No. Then he began to think, I just wanted him to be accepted by the other nobles, so they wouldn't look down on him. But, what must one do to become part of this family? Then Duke speaks, If she runs out of salve, have more sent to her. But don't tell her it's from me. Keegan replied, Yes, Your Grace. Lately, Carrion has been acting strangely. Edwin knocked on the door and said, I'm here. She says, Come in, Edwin. Then she looked outside and thought, He's not here, is he? Thanks to the Jackin incident, I got closer to Edwin. He came to visit me every day, but every time, tea time, on a walks, reading a storybook, Carrion watching from afar. What is he, a stalker? Why does he keep following Edwin and spying on him? Is this his attempt at hiding his concern? Is Carrion always going to watch us from afar now? It's scary. At tea time, Edwin speaks. I just saw one of the maids carrying a really pretty dress. She said, That's my wedding dress, Edwin. Then she thought, Because of that, and how busy I am preparing for the wedding, I'd been meeting with Edwin in my room as often as possible. Then Edwin asked, Wow, so you'll be wearing that pretty dress for the wedding? She replied, That's right. He says, I wish I could be there. She asked, Would you like to be? He replied, Yes, but the Duke won't give me permission. She asked, Really? Then she began to think. Come to think of it, Edwin didn't attend the wedding in the novel. Carrion had ordered him to stay at the manor, and since Edwin didn't get along with Ione anyway, he was actually quite happy about it. I guess he wants to attend the wedding now because we're close. After a while, she said, I'll ask His Grace again. He said, Really? Thank you. She think again. If Edwin is going to attend the wedding, I need to make sure it's perfect. I won't let anyone run it for us. The wedding day. In the end, Carrion refused to allow Edwin to attend the wedding. I couldn't understand why he was so firm about it. It was just a wedding, but it was never described in the novel, so I don't know what might happen. Maid said, You are ready, my lady, she said, after looking at herself. This is me? She think, Ione really is pretty. This face makes the dress shine even more. Suddenly, the sound of people talking was heard. They were talking among themselves. There aren't many guests, especially considering that someone of such high-ranking noble is getting married, who would want to come to the wedding of an illegitimate heir. This isn't just any wedding. He's getting married solely to adopt his brother's son, so the illegitimate son is taking in another illegitimate child. Maybe His Grace feels sorry for him because they're alike. Hearing all this, she began to think, wow, they're being so rude. How dare they speak like that about the Duke? Is this why he didn't want Edwin here? So that precious boy wouldn't have to overhear all these jerks. I guess Carrion made the right decision. Suddenly there was a knock on the door. She said, "Come in." Then Liliana came inside and asked, "How are the wedding preparations going?" Ione asked. "What brings you here?" Liliana asked. "What do you mean, Ione? You invited me yourself." "Did you not want me to attend?" Ione replied. "I don't know if you still bear a grudge against me, but you'd better not try anything today, Liliana." Then she think, "I did tell them to send invitations to all the nobles we know. I suppose Liliana counts as well." Then Liliana speaks, "Goodness. Why would I do anything? You're being ridiculous." Suddenly a servant ran in and said, "Lady Ione, something terrible has happened." Liliana speaks, "Oh my, you had better go check what's going on, Ione." Then suddenly she ran and began to think, "I'm being ridiculous,"